Documentary films hinge on the characters featured within them. Think about your favorite documentaries. I'd be willing to bet that compelling characters are at the heart of them. That doesn't happen by accident. Similar to narrative filmmakers, documentarians have to be very intentional when it comes to casting their films. So to help guide you as you are doing your own documentary casting, today I'm sharing 12 traits of the perfect documentary character. Let's do it. Hey everyone, my name is Austin Meyer. I am a documentary filmmaker, cinematographer, and National Geographic Explorer based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've worked on projects for HBO, Hulu, the New York Times, and all these ideas that I'm gonna share today around character are grounded in my own filmmaking experience. And they're also grounded from my experience analyzing my favorite documentaries. Whenever I see a film that I love, I like to deconstruct it and then figure out how all the pieces fit back together again. And that way I can continue to develop my own storytelling skills. As always, this is not some universally true list of 12 traits. It's just what connects most with me and how I aspire to make documentaries. Your own list of character traits could be completely different, and that's awesome too. Either way, if you jump into the comments with your own thoughts, ideas, whether you agree or disagree, I'll meet you down there. The first trait that I look for in a documentary character is that they are the same whether or not the camera is rolling. Now, I've had debates about this in the past with other filmmakers because a lot of filmmakers do look for people who are performers, people who see the red light and come to life in a big way. And not to be throwing shade this early into the video, but I think maybe some filmmakers like that because the characters they chose don't have the upcoming 11 character traits I'm going to go through in this video. So encouraging a performance is kind of like a shortcut towards generating engaging moments. But to me, anytime I'm filming with someone and it feels like they're being performative, that's a red flag because I'm looking for authenticity. I'm looking for people to be themselves. I don't want participants to be thinking about what I want or what an audience wants and trying to shapeshift into that version of themselves. Because that just gets stale, predictable, and further away from the truth I'm seeking to document. This is why it's great to do some test shoots with people before committing to something long term. There's no way to know how people will behave around the camera until we start bringing it around them. And it's usually pretty clear early in the process of filming with someone if they will be the same person on camera as they are off of it. Just observe. Do they say things the same way? Do they walk the same way? All of those little nuances are important. One tactic that has been helpful for me on test shoots is to film participants in silence. Film them doing nothing, don't ask them anything. How someone handles silence can be very telling. For the second character trait I'm on the lookout for, we're gonna thread the needle a bit. I'm not looking for a performer, but I am looking for someone who pops off the screen. I'm talking about screen presence, charisma. It's difficult to define, but it's one of those elements where when you see it, you know it. Like, it doesn't matter whether I have a tightly composed image of their face or a wide shot with a bunch of people, the character takes up the frame. My eyes and interests are drawn to them in some sort of magnetic way. This trait is both an unspoken presence, but also a spoken one too, because someone who has charisma is usually a great storyteller themselves. Think about it. You probably have a friend in your life who can just hold court at the dinner table when telling a story. That's what I'm looking for. Someone who not only has a compelling story, but who can tell it, who can deliver it. The third trait is someone who is actively seeking something in life that they don't have yet. This could be any number of things: a sense of belonging, a relationship, to prove something to someone, an education, an award, inner peace. What the individual is seeking can be internal or it could be external. But oftentimes the fact that they don't have this thing yet leaves the character unsettled. And that feeling of being unsettled gets them up and into action trying to attain the thing. This action drives a film forward, and the goal typically grounds the story with clear stakes. So when I'm looking for a character to carry a film, I usually ask myself the question, does this person really want something? Do they want it bad enough that they are going to take action to get it? This goes hand in hand with the next trait, which is that the character is passionate about what they are doing and willing to risk it all to pursue a dream. You can't get a much better example of this than Alex Honnold in the documentary Free Solo, who is so passionate about climbing and free soloing El Cap that he risks dying. Of course, this is an extreme example, but it's instructive. Passion is so contagious. We love watching people who are passionate about something. The passion comes out in how they live their life, how they speak about the thing. And even if you, as an audience member, don't care at all about the thing, somehow you'll find yourself really caring about it. I'm not passionate about spelling, for example, but when I watched the documentary Spellbound and the passion that those kids and parents and families have around the spelling bee, I'm genuinely fired up for some linguistic action. Then the risk it all element of this trait is what creates tension and conflict. We don't want to watch someone who is stagnant and safe. We want to see passionate people take a leap and then witness what happens next. The fifth character trait on this list is one that I like a lot, and that is that I like them. So the questions I ask myself when evaluating a story and character's potential is, do I like this person I'd be filming? Do I find them fascinating and want to spend time with them? Making a film takes so much energy. We spend so much time with our documentary participants. It's tough for me to imagine a scenario where I'd want to make a film and spend all that time with someone that I don't like. The other side of this coin is it helps if they like me too, because making a film is sort of like a relationship where you go through these ups and downs and you're integrated into each other's lives. You need to trust each other. They need to give us access to their lives, and then we need to respect that privilege. A couple of years ago, I worked on a documentary within a military unit that really didn't want us there, or at least it seemed that way. They didn't trust us as the film team. And honestly, it became a really challenging project that just wasn't that much fun at times. So having that relationship of trust and liking each other is key. The sixth character trait that I look for is someone whose life as an individual reflects something about the larger world. Do the decisions they make and the conflicts that they are facing, do those speak to universal human themes? I love the idea that through story, we can learn more about what it means to be human everywhere from one specific person somewhere. I gravitate towards people whose journey holds up a mirror to us all. That leads me to number 7, the character should be relatable. Sometimes I feel like documentarians fetishize quirkiness, like whole films are built around idiosyncrasies. So much so that documentary film festivals can feel like a highlight reel of weirdness. And hey, maybe those films do speak to audiences and funders, because there sure seems to be a lot of them out there that function purely as a means of getting people to be like, what? That's crazy. For me, I'm fine with quirk, but not purely for the sake of quirkiness. So I lean towards the relatable, the grounded, the people whose own stories will hold up that same mirror to us and our own lives that I referenced in the previous trait. Now, the next trait is not one that is always immediately apparent, but I'm always on the lookout for it. And that is someone who has layers to their personality. Specifically, I'm interested in psychological and emotional layers. A lot of people have a version of themselves that they play in everyday life. The word performative might be a little strong here, but it's like the version of ourselves that fits our social identity. Like right now, in some ways, I'm playing or performing the identity of a documentary filmmaker. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a natural way of being in the world that adheres to social standards. And that version is kind of like the most surface level version of someone. But when I'm looking for a documentary character, I'm looking for someone who isn't just their surface level self. I want there to be layers beneath the surface, elements to someone that are not clearly visible at first glance, that reveal themselves over time. The deepest layers are often those that not even the individual is aware of themselves. Trait number 9 works in harmony with number 8. I define this as a character who is conflicted or who has contradictions, because it's fascinating to see how people navigate the space between who they want to be and who they are, or who they are in public and who they are in private. And I feel like this is why so many documentaries about politicians are so boring to me, because the characters are so polished and media trained that the films don't reveal any contradictions. You'll even see a scene where it feels like the filmmaker's like, okay, politician, we need to get a scene of you at home so we can show you in your private life, who you are with your family. But usually those scenes feel so camera conscious that we never really actually get anything interesting. There's no contradictions. We all have contradictions as people. It's like the double-edged sword of our personalities, where our greatest strengths have an equal and opposite potential to be our greatest weaknesses. Seeing that tension play out is both fascinating and relatable. All right, we are down to the final 3 character traits. Number 10 is that they have strong convictions, maybe even an ego. Not an ego that is so strong that it's off-putting, but just someone who knows what they believe, feel it's important, and they speak to those beliefs with conviction, regardless if others agree with them or not. Being willing to speak up for your beliefs is a nice trait because it leads to compelling dialogue and tension when it comes up against other people who are also opinionated, but in the other direction. Having strong convictions doesn't mean the person doesn't have insecurities. It just means they speak up and we know what they stand for. And that allows us to have a clear point of reference from which we can watch them change over time or watch their contradictions or layers reveal themselves. The 11th trait is one that is becoming more and more of a talking point in the documentary industry, and that is the notion of collaboration. The participants should be willing to collaborate with us as filmmakers. We as filmmakers should not have an extractive relationship with our film's participants. We are not taking their story from them. We are building a story with them. We are sharing control with them. There are no films without willing and courageous participants. I think the best documentaries are often ones in which it feels like the filmmaker and the character both need each other to find and make meaning out of life's true events. And the last trait for this list is less of a character trait and more something that all of us filmmakers should remember when it comes to casting and filming people. And that is this F. Scott Fitzgerald quote, "Action is character." In other words, what people do is more important than what they say. We can say all we want, but it's ultimately what we do that reveals to others and ourselves who we really are. As documentarians, let's remember this. Filming action gets us closer to the truth. And we can use the interplay between words and action, interviews and scenes, to reveal that fascinating space between who someone wants to be and who they are. Because their pursuit or deep struggle to close that gap is often where the story lies. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching today's video. As a little treat for anyone who's made it this far, I'm putting a checklist of all these character traits that you can download in the description of the video. It lists the trait, has a checkbox, and then a notes section. And hopefully it's helpful as you are thinking about casting characters for your documentary. I'll see you next week, at which point I will be in a new studio, or I may be in a new studio due to an upcoming move up the road to Berkeley, California. So we'll see how things look the next time you tune into the channel. And until then, go out and tell some stories.